5 FIBA world records, 19 minutes, 0 turnovers. And then her own coach sat her down from the starting lineup the very next game. That's not speculation. That's what happened when Caitlin Clark made her Team USA senior national team debut. And it's exactly what Coach Kara Lawson's own press conference words confirmed afterward. You've been watching the footage. You've been reading between the lines. Let's lay out everything that went wrong in Puerto Rico. Because the receipts are all there on film and they are impossible to ignore. When Clark stepped off the bench against Senegal in her very first senior national team game, she did something nobody in international basketball history had ever done. 17 points, 12 assists, 0 turnovers, 4 of 5 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. In 19 minutes, off the bench, those numbers forced FIBA to dig through decades of records across every country to figure out what had just happened. What they found, 5 separate world records, broken in the same night by the same player in her first ever game. Record 1, most assists by any player in a Team USA senior national team debut, men or women, not in a generation. In the entire history of USA basketball, record 2, most assists in any senior national team debut across all countries. She didn't just top the American list, she topped the entire world's list. Every country, every player, every debut in FIBA history, record 3, second most assists in FIBA qualifying tournament history. 1 game in, and she was already sitting in the conversation with the best single-game assist performances the tournament had ever produced. Record 4, most assists by any bench player in FIBA history, men or women. She wasn't even starting. And she still did something no bench player in international basketball history had ever done before. Record 5, 8 assists in the first half alone, with 0 turnovers. The highest first-half assist total in qualifying game history. Before halftime, if the research we're breaking down here is the kind of coverage you've been looking for, hit that like button right now. It tells us you want more of this, and we will keep going deeper. The arena in Puerto Rico felt it before the cameras could frame it. The building was packed, not decent attendance, packed. People lined up outside specifically because Caitlin Clark was in that gym. FIBA's own broadcast crew assigned a dedicated cameraman to follow Clark during live plays, between plays, during timeouts, during warm-ups. The opposing coach's own daughter was sitting in the stands holding a fan sign with Clark's name on it. Sports journalists from countries with no WNBA team were filing stories about this qualifier because Clark was in it. The brand was traveling internationally. The sport was gaining eyes in time zones that had never watched a WNBA game. People who had never cared about women's basketball were suddenly curious because Clark was playing in their time zone. That kind of pull does not get manufactured. It just happens when someone genuinely special is on the floor. So what did Team USA do with all of that momentum heading into the Puerto Rico game? Starting 5, Chelsea Gray, Paige Beckers, Kelsey Plum, Monique Billings, Kiki Ari-Austin, no Clark. The player who had just set 5 world records was on the bench when the opening whistle blew. The starting unit immediately struggled. Pace dropped. Ball movement slowed. Puerto Rico's physical defense was generating problems, and the clean looks simply were not coming. Then Clark came in with the second unit, and the tempo shifted immediately. Faster transition, better reads, more ball movement. The difference was visible in real time, on film, for anyone watching both games back-to-back. But here's where it gets more complicated than just a rotation decision. Drop a comment below right now. Do you think Kara Lawson made the right call keeping Clark off that starting lineup? Because what unfolded on the floor against Puerto Rico goes well beyond a coaching decision about minutes. Angel Reese looked off Caitlin Clark on at least 4 separate possessions. Not once, not twice. 4 documented times on film. Clark was doing everything right without the ball, reading the defense, creating angles, putting herself in positions where a pass would turn into easy buckets. She was open. Reese saw her. And Reese went the other way. The first time, you give it the benefit of the doubt. Basketball moves fast. Reads get missed. By the 3rd and 4th time, that explanation stops working entirely. These were decisions not mistakes. And after one of those sequences, Reese made contact with Clark in a moment where there was no basketball reason for any contact to happen at all. It wasn't a play on the ball. It wasn't a foul situation. It was just a bump in a spot that made no sense. Clips of that moment were circulating on social media within hours of the final buzzer, because people watching could see it wasn't incidental. Fans who had been tracking the tension between these two all season felt like they were watching their suspicions confirmed on an international stage in a Team USA jersey in front of a global audience. That is not a good look. But the look-off possessions were the most visible part of a bigger structural problem. When Clark is being used correctly, defenders have to account for her. They cannot just sit on other players because she demands attention from behind the arc. When teammates refuse to involve her, that defensive pressure disappears completely. The offense becomes easier to guard. That's not a theory, that's basketball spacing, and it showed up clearly in the film every time the ball stopped moving through Clark's hands. Here's the detail that reframes everything. Puerto Rico ran a box-and-one hybrid defense specifically designed to keep the ball out of Clark's hands. A team that was going to lose by 30 points still built their entire defensive game plan around stopping one player. The opponent respected her more than her own bench did. Let that sit for a second. If this kind of coverage has become your go-to source for what's actually happening inside the league, consider joining the channel as a member. Your support is what makes it possible for us to keep digging into the stories nobody else is covering. Then Kara Lawson sat down at the press conference microphone after the game. Most coaches in that situation are careful. Safe language, team-first answers, nothing that gives anyone ammunition. What Lawson said landed differently. She described her approach as fact-finding mode, wanting to experiment with rotations and figure out her roster, reasonable enough on the surface. Then she went further and said she wanted everyone to shine, not just Caitlin Clark. Her words: the day after Clark broke 5 FIBA world records in 19 minutes off the bench. When a reporter asked her directly about Clark's performance in the Puerto Rico game specifically, Lawson dodged it, didn't answer, pivoted away. For a coach who watched history get made less than 24 hours earlier, refusing to even acknowledge that players' game is a choice, and the choice tells you exactly where Clark sits in this coaching staff's hierarchy. Connecting the dots. Lawson didn't stand at a podium and announce an agenda. She said she wanted everyone to shine. She started a lineup without the player who just broke 5 world records. She refused to answer a direct question about that player's game. The press conference didn't reveal the plan. It confirmed what the box score and the film were already showing. And here is the thing that makes all of this matter beyond the tournament. Clark still made Team USA better every single minute she was on the floor in Puerto Rico, against a box-and-one defense, with teammates looking her off, coming off the bench. She still moved the ball, still generated offense, still shifted the tempo the moment she stepped on the court. Now picture what she does when none of that is working against her. That is the Indiana Fever in 2026. There is no rotation designed to make other players shine at her expense. There is no box-and-one from a team that outmatches her. There is a system built entirely around what she does best: pushing pace, finding cutters, pulling the defense out to the arc, and threading passes through gaps that most players don't even see. The Fever aren't managing her minutes so someone else can get their moment. They are building something around her. The Puerto Rico game wasn't a warning about Clark. It was the clearest proof yet of what happens when she's used wrong. Senegal was what right looks like. 5 records, 12 assists, 0 turnovers, the whole offense clicking in under 20 minutes. The people who tried hardest to limit her in Puerto Rico actually made the strongest case for why Indianapolis is exactly where she belongs. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the 2026 WNBA season is building towards something defenses at any level are not prepared for. We're already tracking the matchup data and roster construction that will tell you exactly what to expect when Clark is the entire system. That breakdown is coming next. We will see you there.